Welcome to How Stillness Makes You Move. I'm Lora Polowczuk, Chief Energy Officer with Courageous Path. I'm here, you're here. It's time to empty the fluids, grab a glass of water, and grab a pen and paper. We have about 30 minutes together today. Let's go ahead and get started. So who is this webinar for? It's for high achievers who want to increase their wealth, success, and impact. Those high achievers who have attained great accomplishments, yet feel as if something is missing in their lives. It's also for those high achievers who are stressed out, exhausted, overwhelmed, or feel isolated. So what do we want? We want wealth. We want success. We want opportunities. But these are all on the surface. When we dig a little bit deeper, it's about what we really want. It's about having freedom to live your life on your own terms and to do things when you want to. It's about having meaning in everything you do and say. But most of all, you truly want to make an impact on the world. But let's dig a little bit deeper here, because in our everyday lives, it gets a little deeper. It's about what you really want right now. Today. It's about having the confidence and trust and belief in yourself to take those necessary and courageous steps to live the life of your dreams. It's about having connection with others, a richness and depth in your relationships. It's about having passion for your work and enjoy waking up every day to go do it. It's about having joy in your life, like skipping down the block. It's about having time for fun, family, and friends. And most of all, it's about having energy to make it all happen. But there's a terrible new disease plaguing our world. And as it turns out, to live a life full of passion and joy doesn't have to result in long work days, mental and physical exhaustion, or isolation. This new disease plaguing our world is called unfulfillment. And there's many symptoms for this new disease. There's unhealthy behaviors, judgment of yourself and others, a fear of failure, a fear of success, a fear that if you take on one more opportunity, that fear of responsibility is going to drag you down even further. Oh, and then perfectionism. Making sure that everything is just right. That ties right in with that fear of failure. They go hand in hand. Oh, and the last one, it's that need to prove ourselves. Or maybe it's just needing to prove up to our parents' expectations of us. When you combine some or all of these together, it brings us to this unfulfillment of life, and we no longer enjoy it. And the interesting thing is, This unfulfillment has costs. Let's look more closely at just one of these. Let's look at an unhealthy behavior. An unhealthy behavior, which we'll just use as a lack of sleep, costs the US economy a tremendous amount of money on a yearly basis. We can define this as lost opportunity cost. Do you know how much the US economy loses from a lack of sleep on a yearly basis? Well, the Rand Corporation just published a recent study last year. The US loses $411 billion on a yearly basis. Let's put that into perspective. How much is that? That is actually 2.2% of the US gross domestic product. Can you believe that? Wow. Do you know that the US economy doesn't even grow 2.2% on a yearly basis? And if you want to top this off even more, $411 billion is 4.7 times what Bill Gates is worth. And he's one of the most wealthy and richest men on the earth right now. Imagine what this lost opportunity cost would be if we looked at all of those other issues that I just mentioned. But there's actually some good news. I'm here to tell you there's a better way, a proven and tested model that I will tell you about today. How? If we get still and then move and add some special sauce, you know, like that spice your grandmother's favorite curry recipe, we can create a life full of wealth, meaning, harmony, and impact. And as I examined my own life journey, it revealed the movement paradox, which I'm about to describe to you. And if you're a high achiever with big ambitions, just as I was, you're neither in the beginning stages of burnout or on a trajectory to make this happen. My mission is for you to never experience what I went through. The amped up on coffee that wrecked my body and caused adrenal fatigue. The sugar to keep me going that caused brain fog. Or the restless and tiredness that caused that lack of focus. Or that isolation. Or what I used to call the 20-pound weight gain every time I changed a job. But I was sneaky and I hid most of my pain and frustrations. But the thing is when we start to implement this movement paradox, which I'm about to tell you more, we can stop burnout right in its tracks. And believe it or not, the funny thing is I've always had this love affair with understanding the scientific basis of behavior ever since I was a kid. It allowed me to get a bachelor's of neuroscience degree, get a master's of public health from one of the most elite public health programs in the United States. But this best education in the world couldn't stop my own burnout. I was even called upon to work on some of the most elite prevention efforts in the world, from malaria vaccines to the H1 pandemic, to working with the World Health Organization across Africa and Asia, and even working with the White House. But I was stuck in survival mode. But what I'm about to show you is that the movement paradox is how you get back to living a meaningful and impactful life full of rich experiences and freedom to drive your own wealth and success. So let's jump right in and further discuss the movement paradox and where you are within this movement paradox And as you can see, it's a continuous cycle. It's this interplay between movement and stillness that we find clarity and harness. That we're in, it says, when we implement this movement paradox, it's the interplay between stillness and movement that is where we find clarity and harness our creativity. Do you ever notice that it's when you're taking a shower or a bath that you get the best ideas? Or just sitting on a park bench, watching those leaves rustle in the gentle breeze? This cycle is where potential meets infinite possibility. It allows for something even bigger to happen in our lives than we were expecting. Have you ever worked for something and the reward was bigger than you can imagine? This is also where we find harmony among the facets of our life. Imagine all of your work, relationships, hobbies, and finances. We're like a symphony, playing in harmony with each other. Because when our vibrational frequencies align, we turn our life into a symphony. This is the harmony of our life. And nature is an example for me. It's the sheer beauty that allows me to slow down, yet spins in all directions. I never knew I fell in love with rock climbing until I realized it was my moving meditation. With careful focus, I gently swayed my body from one move to the next. As a result, I was calm, I slowed down, and I could easily assess the risks and plan my next move. It's the metaphor for how I handled the rest of my life. Stop, assess, move, and repeat. To get to the assessment part, we have to get still. And when this occurs, life flows with grace, ease, and a little bit of grit. So let's figure out where you are in the movement paradox and how to bring you in a full cycle to keep your momentum moving in the directions of your dreams and not towards burnout. We'll then categorize you into one of 4 quadrants. So let's dissect movement and stillness a little bit. Oops. Movement is the act of moving or shifting from that physical stance like a dancer. Movement is the act of shifting or moving like a dancer, connecting one step to the next. This is our x-axis. And then we add in our y-axis, the stillness. The stillness is like our physical body that stops, and our mental side accepts where we are right now and appreciates the beauty of who we are in our surroundings. It's often the forgotten piece of stillness and evaluating the gap between where we are and where we want to go. It's only if we pause that we identify if we're moving forward in the right direction. So let's go ahead and dissect these a little bit even further. So when we first think of movement, on the left side, before we even start getting moving, let's call this idle. And on the far right side, as we move down this continuum of movement, think of it as we're fully engaged. Let's take this and use an example of a car. When a car is idle, it's like the engine is on, but it's not moving. It's just sitting on the street or maybe in a driveway. But when the car is moving along the road and fully revved up and accelerated, it's moving down the highway. And you move from point A to point B very quickly. So idle is really just staying where you are. Engage is moving full force from point A to point B. And as we do this, we become more efficient. And as part of being efficient, we use less time and energy. So let's look at stillness. At the bottom of stillness is we're unclear. We're unsure of where we're supposed to go. On the top of stillness, as we move up and have more stillness in our lives, we become more aligned, more clear, more focused. Let's look at an example. It's like putting on a pair of eyeglasses if your vision isn't correct. First, when we're uncertain of our destination, the vision looks hazy, like the bottom, this green area where you can't see. It's fog, it's haze, it's unclear. But as we get closer and more clear on where we're supposed to go, things become clear. You know where you want to go, and it's like a crystal ball. You can see it. You're now aligned with the vision where you want to go. Now let's decipher this a little bit further. We're going to put movement and stillness together in a quadrant. Well, let me take one quick step back. So as we move up the stillness y-axis, we become more vibrant. We gain way more energy and excitement as we go up, making it almost easier to get our tasks done and get clear on what our next steps are. So let's put movement and stillness together. This is what our diagram now looks like. But now let's label these 4 quadrants and see where you fit. So first, when we have no movement and no stillness, you're like a distracted worker. You're there, you might be present at your job, but you're not really doing anything, and you're not even paying attention. Another way to look at this is like an eclipse. You have some energy from the sun, but everything's being blocked by the moon. So you're not really going anywhere. You're just kind of sitting there, lackadaisical. Now let's look at when you have stillness, but no movement. I call this the innovative designer. It's somebody who's creative, who they have a sense of where they want to go. They can build that vision. But the difference is they can't execute it. And a way to also look at this as a glowing orb. Think about it. This orb has energy, but it's not moving anywhere. It has it, it's bright, it's shining, but it's not moving. So this is what these two of stillness look like together. Now let's look at another quadrant. So when we have no stillness but movement, we're like a restless worker, where you have too many tasks, you feel overwhelmed, and you're scattered in every direction. And this is very much like a sparkle or firework. You just scat off and you spark and you're spastic and you're just going off in every way. You're getting a lot of work done, but it may not be very productive. Now let's look at the last one. When you are both still and movement together, you're like this visionary leader. You can both see where you want to go with that vision, and you're taking the necessary steps to move that vision along. This is very much like a laser beam. It's light and energy that is completely focused in one direction. And this is where we eventually all want to be. But let's figure out first Where are you? And how do you move between these quadrants? But let's first, which quadrant are you? Which one did you identify with the most? Let's see how we can move you along this quadrant and get you up to being a visionary leader. So first, when we go up the stillness chain and move up the y-axis, the difference is having courage. When we start implementing the courage to say, hey, what do we really want out of life? What do I really want my relationship with my spouse or partner to be? Maybe it's, what do I want my relationship with my child to be? Or even better yet, what do I want my relationship with my boss to look like? This is having the courage to sit down and think about what you really want. What is that ideal job that you would love? Ask yourself these types of questions. But if you want to move across and get movement, you have to have the courage to start implementing something. Sometimes we just need to start trying new things to see if we even like them or not. But what happens here is we start trying too many things and working on too many tasks, and we get a little overwhelmed. But let's look at the top as we move along this movement axis. When you're this innovative designer, it's also about executing. You need to implement and execute the ideas in your head. And when you start doing that, you soon become the visionary leader. But this visionary leader also knows to not take on too much. Because when you move up the stillness side on the other side, when you move from the restless workaholic to the visionary leader, it's about saying no to certain projects or too many things going on in your life. Do you find that you say yes to everything? Have you considered setting up boundaries with people or even yourself, making sure that you're not so overwhelmed? Ask yourself this question. What can come off your plate right now? What is not important? When we move from the restless worker to the visionary leader, you become very focused and you only work on, say, 3 to 5 projects at a time, not 20, and we're certainly not the taskmaster. But overall, again, we want to become this visionary leader. Because what happens is, on this achievement trajectory, if we don't start implementing the movement paradox and getting a little stillness in our lives, we go from that ambition to achievements to burnout. But what we want with this movement paradox is to start implementing it. Where do you need to get still? Maybe you have important dreams and projects that you need to move forward. And the key here is courage. It's about having the courage to move forward in the face of fear without the certainty of the outcome. It's the special sauce. It's when you get still and you say, my amazing dream, let's just say it's to be the president of India. What are the steps that you need to start taking to get there? And they are small. But what is that first step? Maybe it's just understanding what policy is and how to create it. Because the thing is, it's about taking those courageous steps. And even as you're moving forward, you still have to take a break, stop, and figure out if you're on the right track. Because sometimes we need to do a course correction. And when we do that course correction, we only do it if we stop and evaluate where we are. So let's figure out where you need to take some courageous steps in your life right now. Because what happens is this. If you're in a stable and you just want security, you're in your comfort zone and it's easy. But when you start implementing these courageous steps in the movement paradox, yeah, you're outside of your comfort zone. But you know what? Living outside of your comfort zone is truly living. You only grow by living outside of your comfort zone. It's learning from what worked. It's learning from what didn't work. It's how you grow. And as we're on this achievement trajectory, think of where we started. Once you become this visionary leader, which I know every single one of you is capable of being, if you're not already there. And once you become this visionary leader, you start realizing that there is infinite possibilities. That's why I threw the infinite sign right here for you. And from here, we've developed this confidence and trust in our own abilities. We have this connection with others and the passion for what we do and why we wake up every day. And why we have joy in our lives and we can express it and feel it. And we all of a sudden, instead of working these long hour days, we have time for fun, friends, and family, and energy to do it all. And from this point, you start having freedom in your life. You have true meaning in what you do every single day because you're so focused with your movements. And when this happens, you make an impact. You make an impact on the people around you. You make an impact on your friends. You make an impact on your colleagues. You make an impact on your community. And when that fully expands, you'll have an impact on the world. And from here, this is where your wealth and your success comes from. This is where opportunities that you may never even thought about start coming your way. So let's recap where we are. The movement paradox is this simultaneously moving and being still at the same time. And as we flow together like a ball, we can develop this movement paradox. And it is like a ball. The more you move, the more you get still, the more you have courage. Oh, it starts flowing and it starts building momentum. And just imagine this momentum carries you and carries you and carries you. Think about physics. And where are you along this movement and stillness paradigm? Are you unclear or are you fully aligned in stillness? Where are you on this line? And in movement, are you idle? Are you just sitting there with your dreams? Or are you engaged with them? I want to make sure that you are fully engaged and fully aligned. And where were you on this quadrant? Were you the distracted worker, the restless workaholic, the innovative designer, or the visionary leader? Because first, we have to do one thing. We have to get still. And that takes courage. And then we have to stop, assess where you are and where you want to go. And what is the gap between these two? Next, you need to move and take action on filling that gap. Oh, and yeah, that takes a lot of courage to take those first few steps. And then you know what? We repeat it. We repeat it daily. So do you want more details to soar to wealth and success? I bet you do. Well, I have a special invitation to you. Join me at the 10X Wealth and Biz in India, September 9th, 2017. Register today because tickets are going quickly. I look forward to seeing you in India. Have a wonderful day.